When most people think of Iran, they picture what they see in the news. But there's an entire country of 88 million people living lives that might surprise you. I'm talking about a place where ancient Persian civilization meets cutting-edge technology, where you'll find snow-covered ski resorts just hours from desert oases. Over the past 6 months, I've researched Iran's history, culture, and daily life, spoke with Iranians from different backgrounds, and what I found challenges almost everything I thought I knew. This isn't about politics. This is about people, culture, and the fascinating realities of a country that rarely gets fairly represented. Let's dive in. First, let's talk about scale. Iran is massive. About 1.6 million square kilometers. That's roughly the size of the UK, France, Germany, and Spain combined. But here's what really surprised me. Iran has one of the most geographically diverse landscapes on Earth. In a single day, you could ski in the Alborz Mountains, where peaks reach over 5,600 meters, then drive south to swim in the Persian Gulf, where temperatures hit 50 degrees Celsius in summer. The north, along the Caspian Sea, is covered in dense green forests. It rains heavily there. Some areas get more annual rainfall than London. Meanwhile, the central plateau is dominated by two major deserts, the Dasht-e-Kavir and Dasht-e-Lut, where ground temperatures have been recorded at 70 degrees Celsius, among the hottest places on Earth. To survive in these conditions, Persians engineered the Qanat system over 3,000 years ago. Underground channels that transport water from mountain aquifers to arid regions. Some of these Qanat systems are still functioning today, spanning hundreds of kilometers underground. UNESCO recognizes them as engineering marvels that influenced water management across the entire Middle East and beyond. Here's something that often surprises people. Persian or Farsi isn't Arabic. It's an Indo-European language, meaning it's actually more closely related to English than to Arabic. While Iran uses Arabic script for writing, the languages themselves are completely different families. Iran has a literacy rate of around 85%, and this rises to over 97% for young adults. The country has been prioritizing education since the 1980s, and today over 60% of university students are women. In fact, Iranian women have been attending university in higher numbers than men for decades. Poetry holds a special place in Persian culture. You'll find taxi drivers who can recite Hafez or Rumi from memory. These aren't just historical figures. They're part of everyday conversation. When Iranians face difficult decisions, many still practice bibliomancy with Hafez's poetry, opening his book randomly for guidance. It's kind of similar to how some people read daily horoscopes, but with 700-year-old poetry. About 60% of Iran's population is under 35 years old. This is a young country, and that really shapes everything about daily life. Despite international sanctions limiting access to some platforms, Iranians are incredibly tech-savvy. Iran has one of the highest rates of VPN usage in the world. While Instagram is accessible, many young Iranians use VPNs to access other social platforms. This has created a generation that's exceptionally skilled at navigating digital restrictions. Tehran has a thriving tech startup scene. Iranian developers have created apps with millions of users, especially in e-commerce and food delivery. Snap, Iran's answer to Uber, operates in multiple cities and has fundamentally changed urban transportation. Digicala, an e-commerce platform, rivals Amazon in terms of local market penetration. Gaming is massive. Iran has produced internationally competitive esports teams, and gaming cafes are everywhere in major cities. The country even has its own game development industry, creating titles that blend Persian mythology with modern gameplay. Persian food really deserves its own whole show, but here are the main things you should know. Iranian food is all about fresh herbs, rice made with amazing skill, and slow-cooked stews called khoresh. Tahdig, that crispy rice at the bottom of the pot, is something families actually argue over at mealtimes. Getting that perfect golden tahdig makes cooks really proud. There are even tahdig parties where the whole meal is built around this crunchy treat. Every meal comes with sabzi khordan, a plate of fresh herbs like mint, basil, tarragon, and radishes. Iranians eat more fresh herbs than almost anyone else in the world. This isn't just for decoration. You eat big handfuls of fresh herbs with your main meal. Tea culture is honestly quite serious. Iranians drink black tea all day, served in small, curved glasses with sugar cubes on the side. Coffee is becoming popular in big cities, but tea is still number one. The tea is usually strong, made in a samovar, and drunk after every meal and throughout the workday. Saffron, the most expensive spice in the world, grows in northeastern Iran. The country makes about 90% of all the saffron in the world. It's used in everything from rice to ice cream. Iran is, home to one of the world's oldest civilizations that's still going strong. The Persian Empire, at its biggest around 500 BCE under Cyrus the Great, was actually the largest empire the world had ever seen, stretching all the way from Egypt to India. Cyrus the Great created what many historians believe was the first set of human rights, the Cyrus Cylinder. It said that people should be free to follow their own religions and customs. Honestly, this was a huge deal 2,500 years ago. Iran has 26 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. To give you an idea, that's actually more than India, Japan, or Australia. You can walk through 2,500-year-old palaces at Persepolis, see Zoroastrian fire temples that have been burning non-stop for over 1,000 years, and explore markets that have been open for centuries. Even though it's an Islamic republic, Iran has protected Jewish and Christian communities that have been there for thousands of years. The Armenian Quarter in Isfahan has churches from 400 years ago with amazing paintings inside. Iran has the largest Jewish population in the Middle East outside of Israel, with roots going back to Bible times. Persian architecture is easy to spot. The tiles, the shapes, the domes, these aren't just pretty. They're clever ways to build things that work well with Iran's weather. Wind catchers, or badgirs, are old air conditioning systems. These tall structures catch wind from any direction and push it down into buildings, sometimes even sending it over water to make it cooler. Some Iranian cities are built almost completely underground for this reason. The city of Nushabad has a whole underground network from 1,500 years ago. Persian gardens, follow a really specific way of designing things that has influenced gardens all over the world. The Chahar Bagh, or Four Gardens, design splits the space into four sections, and these stand for the four elements as well as the four holy elements in Zoroastrianism. These gardens, by the way, inspired Islamic garden designs across 3 continents, including the gardens of the Taj Mahal and Mughal gardens all over South Asia. Modern Iranian architecture, well, it mixes these old elements with new designs in some really cool ways. Tehran, for example, has a growing skyline with buildings that actually put traditional geometric patterns into steel and glass structures. The truth about women's lives in Iran is honestly much more complicated than most news stories make it seem. And this complexity, I think, really needs an honest talk. Iranian women have been involved in politics for over 100 years. During the Constitutional Revolution from 1906 to 1911, women organized protests and played big roles. And, throughout the 20th century, women's rights have grown and shrunk under different governments. Nowadays, Iranian women work as engineers, doctors, lawyers, business owners and filmmakers. In fact, more women than men go to universities. Iranian movies have shown us internationally famous female directors, like those who worked with Jafar Panahi, and actresses who have won awards at Cannes and other big festivals. Women take part in sports though, yeah. Some activities do have rules. Iran has female Olympic athletes, rock climbers, martial artists, and even a growing women's skateboarding scene. Female athletes have represented Iran around the world in taekwondo, shooting, and other sports. The rule about wearing a hijab is followed differently across the country. It's stricter in smaller cities and less so in parts of northern Tehran. Many young Iranian women, push the boundaries with fashion, wearing colorful scarves, pushback, and modern clothes. This back and forth between the law and daily life is a constant topic of discussion within Iran. Persian classical music has a special system of scales called the radif, which is a collection of tunes that musicians learn and then make up their own music within. It's both very structured and, honestly, deeply made up on the spot. Traditional instruments like the tar, a long-necked lute, sitar, which is a four-stringed lute, and santur, a hammered dulcimer, make sounds that are uniquely Persian. Master musicians, well, they spend decades getting really good at what they do. There's also a thriving underground music scene. Rock, rap, and electronic music exist in a tricky legal area, but Iranian young people have created lively music communities. Some artists put music online, getting fans around the world while dealing with cultural rules. Iranian cinema is famous worldwide. Directors like Abbas Kiarostami and Asghar Farhadi have won big awards like the Palmes d'Or and Oscars. Iranian filmmakers have developed a special, simple style that focuses on human stories and tricky moral questions. Even with rules about what they can show, they've made some of the most praised films globally. Iranian social customs are built around taarruf, a fancy system of being polite that can, really confuse people from other places. If an Iranian offers you something, they might say no to getting paid many times. You're expected to say no to their offer many times too. This polite back and forth is part of every social interaction. A family is super important in Iranian society. Homes with many generations living together are pretty common, and family get-togethers, well, they're often big events with huge amounts of food. Nowruz, which is the Persian New Year celebrated when spring starts, involves weeks of getting ready, visiting family, and of course sharing meals together. Even with limits on public social life, Iranians are honestly remarkably social. Parks fill up with families on weekends and cafes are places for young people to meet. There's also a lively dinner party culture, where friends gather at homes for meals that can last for hours. How men and women interact in social places is, well, quite complicated. Some places are separate for men and women, while family gatherings are mixed. Young people often find ways to hang out through university groups, sports clubs, and private get-togethers. The social scene, it really does change a lot between cities and country areas. So let's talk about how daily life costs in Iran, which honestly has been greatly affected by sanctions and money changes. The official money, the rial, has seen a lot of prices go up. In simple terms, here's what daily life costs in Tehran as of 2024. Rent for a one-bedroom flat in a decent Tehran neighborhood costs about 40 to 60 million rials per month, which is roughly 100 to 150 US dollars if you use the unofficial exchange rates. But, this actually takes up a much bigger part of what local people earn. When it comes to food, A meal at a local restaurant costs around 2 to 5 million rials, or about 5 to 12 US dollars. A kilo of chicken is about 1.5 million rials. Rice is about 1 million rials, and honestly, fresh fruit and veg is usually cheap at local markets. Getting around is another story. Tehran's underground train is super cheap, at about 50,000 rials per ride, which is less than 15 pence. A snap ride across the city might cost 1 to 2 million rials, or 2 to 5 US dollars. Petrol is very cheap because the government helps pay for it, making driving quite affordable if you own a car. Fun things like cinema tickets cost about 1 to 2 million rials. Internet and phone services are thankfully affordable. A gym membership, though, costs about 10 to 20 million rials per month. The real tricky part here is that while these numbers seem low in dollar terms, the average monthly salaries in Iran are from 60 to 150 million rials, or about 150 to 400 US dollars equivalent. This makes rent and rising prices a real struggle for many families. Despite these money problems, Iran actually has a busy shopping economy. Shopping centers, markets, and online shops are all quite active. People find ways to keep up a middle-class lifestyle, often through strong family help and, having several ways to earn money. Iran is a country full of opposites. It's old and new, traditional and forward-thinking, restricted yet incredibly creative. It's a place where young people use special internet tools to see global culture, all while loving poetry that was written 700 years ago. It's where women fight for more freedoms, even as they do really well in universities. It's also a place where tech startups manage to grow despite international rules. The 88 million people living in Iran aren't all the same. They're different, they're complicated, and honestly, they're often just as curious about the world as the world should be about them. This documentary, it just barely touches the surface. Persian civilization has given so much to human history, from maths to buildings, from poems to ideas about how governments should work. Really understanding Iran means looking past the news headlines and seeing the rich culture and current life of a country that's been a meeting point for civilizations for thousands of years. If this changed how you see Iran, I'd really love to hear about it in the comments. What surprised you most? What would you like to learn more about? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next documentary.